Tonight on Reporting Scotland, the police step up patrols around mosques. On a visit to Edinburgh Central Mosque, the First Minister said any rioters here would feel the full force of the law.
There is absolutely no place for violence or disruption within our society. We live in a democratic society and people must be assured of their safety in all of our communities.
Also on tonight's programme, we speak to Duncan Scott about being our most decorated Olympian alongside the likes of Sir Chris Hoy.
It's quite a weird company to be in because these are people that I've kind of idolised and, that I just, as I say, loved watching at home when I was growing up, true inspirations.
The swimmer also talks about concerns over doping and whether he'll continue to the LA Olympics. No one has been appointed to the job as patient safety champion a year after the role was created.
I was down and I met you. Seemed at the time like a dream come true.
Using artificial intelligence to finish a lost track from the 70s.
And coming up in the sport, Rangers will face opponents from either Austria or the Netherlands to make the Champions League group stage if they can defeat Dynamo Kyiv.
Hello, I'm Laura Goodwin. Welcome to Monday's programme. Racist far-right thugs who will feel the full force of the law. Some of the strong language used by both the Prime Minister and First Minister in condemning violence which unfolded in parts of England and Northern Ireland at the weekend. A hotel housing asylum seekers was targeted by a mob near Rotherham in South Yorkshire yesterday, with riots breaking out in Middlesbrough, Liverpool, Belfast and elsewhere. So far, almost 400 arrests have been made. Here, police have stepped up patrols around mosques and places of worship, while John Swinney says there is no place for violence or disruption in a democratic society. With more, here's our political correspondent, Andrew Kerr.
Standing in solidarity with Muslim leaders, the First Minister spent time at Edinburgh Central Mosque to show his support, a community he described as very, very nervous, like these people here.
Since we moved here, we love the country, we love the people. We have seen very nice people around here, and it's a pretty sad situation, actually.
We didn't expect something like this, but it is scary as well. But hopefully, we hope it will be, the situation will be better.
Calm down, yeah.
It's unjustified, and I think the Prime Minister is doing the right thing. And I think everyone should remain calm and work with each other. We all are a single community in essence.
There is absolutely no place for violence or disruption within our society. We live in a democratic society and people must be assured of their safety in all of our communities. And my visit today has been designed to say to our community that's feeling very, very nervous today that the government is on their side and is supporting them and is working to ensure their safety.
Community cohesion is a concern for politicians, but it's also a worry for Police Scotland as they keep a very close eye on what's happening just now.
We have increased our policing patrols. There are more police officers in our communities just now, but they're there for a reassuring presence. But if need be, we do have the capability to actually respond to the type of violence and disorder that you've seen in England and Wales and Northern Ireland in the same manner, and we will if we need to.
The police and the First Minister said they'd confronted disinformation on social media about an incident in Stirling at the weekend. The Scottish Labour leader echoed his government colleagues in London who criticised some of those platforms.
We also have to apply pressure on those social media companies because they cannot allow people to spread misinformation and that misinformation then to lead to this kind of riots and violence on our streets, and they too have a responsibility to the public.
As Police Scotland keep an eye on social media, some studies have suggested the issue of migration is not as keenly felt in Scotland as it is down south.
So I think in Scotland, the far right has to work harder to make people kind of buy into their narratives about migrants being a threat than they perhaps do in some parts of the UK where we've been seeing this violence. But at the same time, I think there are still people who are active in these networks in Scotland.
Following the London riots in 2011, the courts were tough, and that might happen again.
I think the prosecution in England will take similar actions amongst the events that have taken place over the last few days, and the use of 24-hour-a-day courts might facilitate this, because although they might be a bit of a gimmick, it does show that the state is taking action very quickly against people in the criminal justice system.
So the warning from the authorities is clear to people, as communities hope this tense time will soon pass.
And Andrew joins us now. Andrew, this is proving to be a real test for Sir Keir Starmer's government. How important is it that they are seen to bring these events under control?
Yes, Laura, very important indeed. Politics is an unpredictable business, but events can really shake governments, of course. Now, who could have predicted this, that a crisis of almost national proportions enveloping not the UK, because of course here in Scotland we are indeed excluded. Now, Sir Keir has been attempting to show leadership here, but of course it could be another difficult night in England tonight. Now, speaking to Police Scotland today, they are saying there's no intelligence to suggest that anything is going to happen here in Scotland. They're hopeful it will indeed remain quiet as well. But that's a very clear message, Laura, I think coming down from the government, from the courts, that actually back in 2011, when Sir Keir Starmer was in charge of the prosecution down south, he sent a clear message about anyone who breaks the law, and that clear message is still very loudly and out there tonight about anyone who considers taking part in disorder. Laura.
OK, Andrew Kerr, many thanks indeed. Well, as mentioned in Andrew's report, a stabbing in Stirling had been the subject of what the First Minister called unhelpful speculation on social media over the weekend. To date, 29-year-old Callum Fisher appeared at Stirling Sheriff Court accused of attempted murder after a woman aged 21 was treated for injuries following an incident in the city on Saturday night. He made no plea or declaration and was remanded in custody ahead of another court appearance. Swimmer Duncan Scott has been speaking about becoming the Scot with the most Olympic medals in history. His gold and silver in Paris takes him to 8 overall for his career, one more than Sir Chris Hoy, who has 7. And Scott says he might not be finished yet. He's also been talking to our sports news correspondent Chris McLaughlin about suggestions from teammate Adam Peaty that their competitors from China might not be swimming clean.
You know, I think the company in which, you know, a lot of the people have spoken about that I'm in terms of medal count, it's almost quite overwhelming. It's when I was at home, you know, 2008, 12, and yeah, it's quite a weird company to be in, because these are people that, you know, I've kind of idolised, and you know that, yeah, I just, as I say, loved watching at home when I was growing up. You know, true inspirations to myself.
How easy does it sit on your shoulders that you could be a huge inspiration to younger people watching you who could grow up in 10 years' time to be sitting here?
Yeah, it's quite it's almost quite a daunting prospect, I would say, but at the same time it's quite a privilege as well. You know, I would say since I've been the Learn to Swim ambassador for Scottish Swimming and Scottish Water since about 2016, it's something I didn't quite truly grasp and understand the full impact of. But you know, now, you know, I'm getting the awareness of, you know, I was getting asked about this. They were like, "Oh, it's not long till LA." I'm like, "Geez."
Is that realistic?
I think right now, you know, I'd like to be. Well, totally. I mean, you look at with what I've achieved. In some sense, I would say I surprised myself and how good I was. I think a lot of my teammates have spoken really well on it, and it's about, you know, we can do all that we can do. You know, as long as, you know, I've got full faith in the whole of Team GB, and you know, we've got certain parameters that we need to work in, and you know, control the controllables in that sense. And you know, swimming's a sport in which that.
And Chris is in Paris for us tonight. Chris, really nice to hear Duncan's reflections of his career. Where do you think he ranks in terms of Scots Olympic heroes?
Well, he's very humble, Laura, isn't he, about his achievements, but you can't really argue with his record. 3 Olympic Games, 8 Olympic medals. He does point towards the fact that the likes of Sir Chris Hoy has 6 golds, 1 silver, Andy Murray, 2 back-to-back gold medals in the singles. No one ever done that before, but you get the feeling that Duncan Scott isn't done yet. He was trying to be coy there when I asked him about LA, and he wasn't really making a very good job of it. If he can be there, he will be there. You wouldn't bet against more medals, and of course he'll hardly be over the hill at 31.
Indeed. In terms of more medals, is there anything else we should be looking out for in the next couple of days where Scotland might medal again?
A huge one tomorrow, and a race here that a lot of people here in Paris are talking about, and that is Josh Kerr and Jakob Ingebrigtsen in the 1500 metres final. Now, there is no love lost between these two. Kerr has beaten Ingebrigtsen in the past, but the Norwegian is absolutely the favourite. That is definitely one to look out for. Laura Muir has her semi-final in the 1500 tomorrow. Also tomorrow in the velodrome, Nia Evans and Jack Carlin in finals as well. Expectations there for those two are also pretty high.
OK, Chris and team, many thanks indeed. Some of the day's other stories now. A family has paid tribute to their much-loved son who died after being hit by a lorry while he was walking on the M74 motorway. 18-year-old Christopher Keenan, pictured here when he was 16, was pronounced dead at the scene of the incident near Hamilton at about 3:10 on Saturday morning. Police Scotland are urging any witnesses to contact them. Liam Kerr is standing to become the next Scottish Conservative leader. The North East MSP said he aimed to take the party out of opposition, telling members he could offer a realistic path to power. He joins Russell Finlay, Brian Whittle and Deputy Leader Megan Gallagher in the leadership race. The Rest and Be Thankful in Argyll and Bute is closed due to concerns over landslips. A forecast for heavy rain means traffic is being diverted from the A83 onto the old military road. Several landslides in recent years have led to issues on the route. There are now plans for an open-sided tunnel as a solution. Bear Scotland says they'll assess the hillside tomorrow morning. Last September, a law was passed to create a Patient Safety Commissioner in Scotland, a post that would be independent of government and health boards to hold them to account when things go wrong. It came in the wake of problems with mesh implants and after patients were harmed by disgraced surgeon Sam El-Jamel. But almost a year on, the post remains unfilled and campaigners say they're frustrated by the delay. Here's our health correspondent, Lisa Summers.
Alan Ogilvie is one of a group of campaigners who's been trying to raise the alarm about patient safety in the NHS. He and others helped to instigate a public inquiry into the conduct of Tayside surgeon Professor Sam El-Jamel. He says it's been exhausting to get people to take their concerns seriously.
Everybody's frustrated. We got no support. You know, it's caused much heartache in the people organising things. Yes, it's a massive undertaking for patients to do on their own. Perhaps if this Patient Safety Commissioner was around, we'd have had some support about doing this.
It's often taken the determination of patients to expose scandals in the NHS. It was after a review of some high-profile failings, like pelvic mesh implants or sodium valproate, that the role of an independent Patient Safety Commissioner was created to be an advocate for patient safety and well-being. It's a cross-party panel of MSPs that are in charge of recruiting the new Patient Safety Commissioner, not the Scottish Government. That's to ensure that it's completely independent. But despite interviewing a number of candidates in April, they didn't find who they were looking for and instead say they're going to re-advertise. The Commissioner will have the power to investigate anything they feel poses a significant risk to patient safety, with powers to question health boards and officials. Some who sit on the advisory group who set up the role say it's a big job and it does take time to get the right person in post.
I honestly feel that there could be nothing more important in the NHS than the safety of our patients, and that is the first and foremost principle, you know, ensuring that people have access to safe healthcare. I do think, you know, the important thing is that we get it right, rather than just undertaking an appointment for the sake of it, you know, that we make sure that we get the right person for this role.
The NHS is under pressure and under scrutiny, and when the new Patient Safety Commissioner is eventually appointed, it's hoped they will be a voice for those at its heart who can often feel unheard. Lisa Summers reporting Scotland.
Now, it is a little-told story in Scotland's music scene, the time a folk rock band from East Kilbride opened for David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust tour in the 70s. And now, decades on, a piece of the JSD band's legacy is coming back to life, thanks to the great-nephew of the band's late singer and with the help of artificial intelligence. Frankie Allen explains.
The JSD Band was an influential folk rock group that emerged from East Kilbride in the late 60s. And now, decades on, a piece of the band's legacy is coming to life, thanks to the great-nephew of one of the band's founders, Des Caulfield.
My great-uncle was in a band and they toured with like Bowie, which is crazy, Jerry Rafferty, Billy Connolly. So he wrote a demo when they kind of parted ways called Only Fascination. And somehow my dad ended up with a tape of it. And I heard it and I was like, this is like perfect. It was almost criminal that it wasn't released when it had been made.
After Des passed away from cancer last year, Leif made it his mission to feature his great-uncle in his cover of the track.
Then the Beatles had just released Now and Then, which is a tune where they pulled John Lennon's vocal from one of his old demos. So I pulled my great-uncle's original vocal from his demo and then just layered it in with my own vocals. So I just layered that in with my vocal.
I was down and I met you. Seemed at the time like a dream come true. Now you've left, your dreams come
One of Des's childhood friends and fellow JSD band member, Colin Finn, says that the track is a good way to honour Des's legacy.
It was good. Des was a natural. Great songwriter, great musician, great ears. A wee bit big, but they were good ears, you know. He was a talented guy, and I don't think he got the credit he really deserved. You know, I think Des should have been up there. He should have been huge. I think we held him back.
That report from Frankie Allen. Amy's here now with tonight's sport, and Scottish teams have been finding out who they could face in Europe.
Yes, their potential opponents. Thanks very much, Laura. Good evening. That's where we're going to start. Rangers will face either Austrian or Dutch opposition for the chance to play in the Champions League group stage if they can knock out Dynamo Kyiv in the third qualifying round. The Ibrox side were drawn against either Salzburg or Twente should they make it through what's a potentially tricky-looking tie against the team who finished runners-up in the Ukrainian League. A meeting with Twente would see Rangers come up against their former player Sam Lammers, who's only just signed for the Dutch team. Well, this was Rangers training in Glasgow at lunchtime on the back of an opening weekend Premiership draw against Hearts. The squad then went straight to the airport to fly to Poland, where tomorrow's match against Dynamo is taking place. They've just touched down in the city of Lublin, and manager Philippe Clement is due to host a media conference shortly. Well, three other Scottish teams learned who their potential European opponents could be. In the Europa League, Hearts will take on Ukraine's Kryvyi Rih or Czech side Victoria Pilsen in the playoff. A win over two legs would be enough for them to progress to the group stage of the competition. If not, they still do have the security of the Europa Conference League, which is the competition Kilmarnock and St Mirren are looking to qualify for. The Ayrshire side will face Copenhagen or Banik Ostrava in the playoff if they manage to beat Tromsø, while St Mirren will meet Cornwall Honeydua or Astana if they manage to defeat Brann. And speaking of St Mirren, what a start it has been to the season for them. After winning their first Europa Conference League qualifier against Valur, they managed to follow up with a comprehensive victory over Hibernian yesterday. 3-0 it finished in their Premiership opener in Paisley, and manager Stephen Robinson says it is a promising way to begin the new campaign.
I think it's important to get off to a good start, otherwise you're playing catch up and everybody starts getting a little bit impatient and panicky. But so yeah, look, we're delighted with the start. Can we be better? Yeah, of course. Can we learn to manage the bigger games and go again 3 days later? Yeah, we can all improve on that as a staff, and it's a learning curve for everybody.
Celtic had an even better start to the defence of their Premiership title, hammering Kilmarnock 4-0 in front of an expectant home crowd. After watching their team unfurl the champions' flag, the Celtic fans were treated to goals from Rio Hatate, Liam Scales, Nicholas Kuhn, and that fourth from Anthony Ralston. Elsewhere, Dundee United and Dundee drew 2-2 in the Tayside derby.
I have to be so pleased for the first game of the season. You hope that after the pre-season that we've had, with the fluidity of the team and the work and the mentality, that then just can come into your first game, and it certainly did that. So yeah, very pleased for everyone.
Now it's over to Laura McKeever to find out what's happening on BBC Scotland at 9 o'clock.
Tonight we'll hear the reaction from the Muslim Council of Scotland to the violent disorder in parts of England and Belfast. And as we wait to hear who Kamala Harris will choose as her running mate, our correspondent in Washington will tell us who's in the running. And we'll hear from the beekeeper whose honey is so good it's won an award, and praise from Nigella. We'll see you at 9.
A woman from the Borders is aiming to break a world record this week, but Una Cameron won't be competing at the Paris Olympics. Instead, she'll be arriving at a barn in Cornwall, armed with a pair of clippers. The 51-year-old is aiming for the world sheep shearing title, and that will mean shearing more than 458 ewes over a 9-hour period. Roughly one sheep every 1 minute and 10 seconds. It's a feat so physically demanding, it's said to be worse than running 2 marathons in a row.
I started training last August when it was decided that I would put my hat in the ring and have a go. So I've been training. I train 5 days a week or 6 days a week. Some of it's strength, weights, training, a lot of it's mobility to loosen off parts and make it so you're more flexible on the day, and shear a lot of sheep is the other thing. So yeah, and think about how you're shearing them and how you can maybe miss out a shot here to make it more efficient and quicker.
They're going to need a lot of sheep, aren't they, Callum? How is the weather looking? Because we had that yellow weather warning for a while, didn't we? Did anyone have sunshine today?
Oh, yes. Downwind of the hills and east humid air flows. Sunny Murray was doing its usual thing. Edinburgh, lovely. Fife, lovely. But for many of us, clammy environment. We had very wet conditions.
Yeah.
And in the southwest, I'm sure they were thinking about building an ark. It was that wet. So, yes, hello there, folks. If you have another look at this picture, there's lovely East Kilbride with a downpour. It was clammy today, wasn't it just? We had heavy downpours of rain, particularly in the southwest, where that rain was incessant. 2 to 3 inches of rain has fallen since around 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon, but downwind of the hills in east and northeast, very little rain. And the Fern effect, descending air off the hills, was bringing some very warm conditions with sunshine in parts of the east. 25, Lossiemouth 27.4. That's the highest we've seen since late June. So there's earlier satellite imagery with the stripe of cloud and precipitation along a cold front. A lovely end to the day though in the far northwest behind that cold front. That's going to continue to edge east this evening, but along and ahead of it, still pulses of rain feeding up from the south. Again, most incessant into parts of Dumfriesshire, into the Borders. A Met Office yellow warning remains in force until midnight. But some of that rain expanding further north into the northeast too. Perhaps some torrential downpours mixed in there at times. The odd rumble of thunder couldn't be ruled out too. But gradually from the west, drier conditions coming in. Early hours, we'll see the last vestiges of that rain clear the mainland, but then we'll see torrential downpours into Shetland. The last vestiges of the humidity in the east, much fresher in the west. A few chilly glens in the northwest could dip down to 4 or 5 overnight. Tomorrow then, a lovely sunny start once we clear the cloud and the heavy rain from Shetland, but the shower clouds will build, and towards and into the afternoon we'll have a general mix of sunshine and scattering of showers. And with that southwesterly breeze, well, it will be feeling much fresher out there, highs of 17 to 19 with the offshore component with that southwesterly wind towards the east coast again. 20 degrees, not out the question there. 21, 22, Aberdeenshire, Murray. Cooler though towards the West Highlands, Skye, the Western Isles, where showers will become more frequent later in the day and strengthening southwesterly winds. But elsewhere, the showers will fade into tomorrow evening. Then on Wednesday, look at that, low pressure, you've guessed it, unsettled. A band of rain clearing to sunshine and showers and blustery for all. That's you up to date on the weather front. Laura.
Thank you very much, Callum.
No problem.
Now, tonight's main news again. The First Minister says any racist far-right thugs here will feel the full force of the law. John Swinney condemned the violence which unfolded in parts of England and Northern Ireland at the weekend. Police here have stepped up patrols around mosques and places of worship. And Scotland's most decorated Olympian says he might not be finished yet. Swimmer Duncan Scott was speaking after his gold. And that's where we leave you. I'll be here with your late news at around 10:30 tonight. But from everyone here, do enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.